Good morning, everybody. This is a live emergency update as we are tracking dangerous wildfire conditions across Southern California, including this major plume just outside of Pasadena. This is up near the Altadena area. This is sending a major plume back toward Glendale, and all of this is being fueled by major Santa Ana winds out of the northeast to southwest. This is on the northwest quadrant of that big time upper level low that's sagging down into northwestern Mexico. And this is the same system that is going to be leading to a southern U.S. snowstorm that's going to begin tomorrow, including down near the Dallas area, Dallas up into southeastern Oklahoma. It does look like those snowfall totals could be on the increase just a little bit as well. And I think that we're starting to shift a little bit more to these easterly winds out of the north. They were due north overnight, and it looks like a lot of this plume is starting to get taken back toward the southwest area. Malibu was burnt to the ground, many locations near Malibu, including some of these large homes overnight tonight. I heard reports of people evacuating, abandoning their vehicles. And this is because of those strong northeast winds, same areas where we were covering flooding about a year ago with that drone footage over Malibu Creek up there. Definitely had a firestorm that came down and burned many of the areas all the way down to the Pacific Coast Highway. And those plumes still continue. They have subsided just a little bit after peaking overnight last night, at least if you're looking at the reflectivity and size of some of these plumes. Definitely looks like this is a very healthy fire. Last I saw, 0% contained, very strong winds, gusting up to 100 miles per hour through some of those gaps in the terrain. So definitely a very dangerous situation up here for wildfires. And that is across the Southern California area. We'll look up and see if there are any plumes up near Santa Barbara. Not seeing any of those active plumes that far north just yet, but we definitely had some of these coming out of Malibu as well. So this radar died about 8 hours ago, but you could definitely see some of those big plumes up near Pacific Palisades. And these are burning, and they're a little bit tilted because the winds are so strong. These plumes are very tilted, so a lot of times the radar isn't really showing them until they mature just offshore. But this was last night, yesterday evening, when that one probably peaked just off Malibu, so you could see some of those structures getting burnt, and then that'll lead to the plume getting a little bit higher offshore. That radar went down this morning, but we are using this one to see some of these active plumes up near Pasadena. 30,000 evacuees I am hearing as well, and all of this is being fueled by those big time Santa Ana wind patterns. I'm going to show you exactly what those look like here right now and show you where that vortex is located and what is causing all these, and we'll look at a forecast as well. But there, of course, is my most reasonable forecast so far. Southeast Oklahoma, that's from the 6Z GFS. The 12Z just came out. It looks like it is even greater in terms of some of the snowfall totals. That includes the DFW area up toward DFW, or DFW up to Oklahoma City. So it's this vortex right here that settled down into the Baja California area that is leading to those Santa Ana wind conditions on steroids on the northwest side, where you have that strong pressure gradient. Basically, you have these northeast winds right here ripping through gaps in the terrain, and you have a lot of mountains down in the San Bernardinos down there. You have the coastal ranges that are oriented northwest to southeast. So this wind comes in almost perpendicular to that mountain range, and it's funneled through gaps in the terrain that accelerates the winds. Might even be up over 100 miles per hour in gusts down there. In this same area, we were covering flooding down Malibu Canyon. Malibu Canyon had a lot of flooding. We were flying the drone over there. That heavy rainfall leads to the development of a lot more vegetation, and then it dries out again when you go through another seasonal cycle of drought. And so there are probably a lot of fuels down there near the Malibu Pacific Palisades area to burn. And then you get these dry, descending, northeasterly Santa Ana winds just pumping through gaps in the terrain, definitely enhanced by that pressure gradient. This is the forecast for this morning, too, which those Santa Ana winds are just raging right now. And as you go through later on this afternoon into the evening, the strongest Santa Anas will focus a little bit to the further to the south of the Los Angeles area, but you're still going to have that flow pattern funneling through the gaps in the terrain, extending through the overnight hours tonight. even though they do start to subside as you go toward evening, you still have that classic Santa Ana flow pattern, and the gaps in the terrain, the topography are likely going to accelerate it. But after about midnight tonight, you're going to start to see those winds subside near the Los Angeles area, a little bit further north, up toward Malibu. Should be able to give just a little bit of a break as this vortex is starting to move through northern Mexico. And you actually get another parent vortex that dominates, that drops down through the Four Corners region. And this is going to set the stage for the southern U.S. snowstorm that's going to begin tomorrow. And it looks like DFW could get several inches of snow, maybe even up to 6 inches of snow, maybe greater than that. I do think that the bullseye is going to be from southeastern Oklahoma into western Arkansas there. That's some of the higher terrain down near Idabel, Broken Bow area. Could even see a foot of snow down there. And here in Oklahoma City, 2 to 3 inches of snow, it appears, could be very likely. But we are also starting to see an increase in some of those snowfall totals in the 12Z models that are coming out. So this southern vortex here, as this one dominates up near the Four Corners region, we could get a little bit of an acceleration of those Santa Ana winds tomorrow again. They might ramp back up as this vortex dominates to the south of the Four Corners region. So I think that we'll probably see those winds subside this evening into the overnight, but still you maintain that flow pattern until about after midnight. And then I think on Thursday, you could get those Santa Anas accelerating once again with some more critical fire danger developing. And then look at that. It looks like on Thursday afternoon as that vortex really starts to dominate as you get that stronger flow on the backside of it. These are also going to be funneling through that terrain. So you might see a little bit of a worsening of the fire conditions Thursday. And then finally Thursday night into Friday, that vortex moves off to the east and we start to see a weakening of those Santa Ana winds. And then you see a shift out of the winds to the northwest, which is parallel to that mountain range Friday night into Saturday morning. And then you get this weird, positively tilted weakening trough with a lot of the flow on the east side. And that's why this isn't going to properly phase with that vort. And normally that would lead to a negatively tilted trough and you'd have a nor'easter on steroids, but you're not going to get that with this. This is just going to go out to sea. But you have winter storm watches, northern Georgia, all the way through eastern Tennessee. They're going to be coming up for the western Carolinas as well. And we're starting to get winter storm warnings that are coming out now for the DFW area. These are the new snowfall totals on the 12Z GFS run. So they are coming up a little bit for the DFW up toward the Oklahoma City area once again. The upper level pattern is looking a little bit more consolidated with the 500 millibar vortex. And that back edge of the heaviest snow gets awfully close to the Oklahoma City area. Right now, this model has Oklahoma City getting about 1 to 2 inches of snow. Maybe a little bit more than that, though, could happen. But you can definitely see that that back edge of the heaviest snow seems to be getting a little bit closer to Oklahoma City. But I think that the bullseye for the snow for this event probably going to be North Texas, Red River region, up into Arkansas, and some of this higher terrain here of southwest Arkansas into southeastern Oklahoma through central southern Arkansas could even get double-digit snowfall. And I think that that arm of the heavier snow is going to extend across northern Mississippi as well. You're looking at the forecast snowfall totals from the 12Z GFS through about midday on Friday. And it expands across northern Mississippi. Somebody up here in northwest Mississippi could even end up with a foot of snow. And the GFS model has shown this with greater totals right near the ice rain line. And if that happens, that could bring some of these greater numbers into the DFW area. And I think with some of the heavier precipitation coming in, we're getting a little bit of dynamical cooling that's happening, and that will actually boost some of those snowfall totals. But looking at the Kuchera method, it is definitely hinting at much less than 10 to 1 snow to liquid ratios across the DFW Metroplex, more of a 4 to 5 inch type situation, but better snow liquid ratios further north, southeast Oklahoma into central and southern Arkansas, and across southwestern Tennessee, northern Mississippi. That looks like where we're probably going to have that bullseye. And there's definitely some higher terrain up there, southeast Oklahoma to southwest Arkansas, that could squeeze out a little bit greater, closer to 10 to 1 snow to liquid ratios. We're probably not going to get greater than that with this southern U.S. snow event. But this is going to continue off to the east. Looks like Nashville could get several inches of snow as well. And some of these new models are coming out. Let's see for fun what the NAM is showing. Even the NAM model has come back to this southeast Oklahoma snowfall zone. Also shows Little Rock getting pounded, double-digit snowfall totals there. Central Little Rock, central Arkansas, some of the higher terrain. And it has Oklahoma City just getting 1 to 2 inches of snowfall. But down here over that, the higher mountainous terrain of southeast Oklahoma, Idabel, Broken Bow could get several inches up toward Fort Smith. Looks like Fayetteville could get rocked, some of the Ozark Mountains as well from this NAM model. But the NAM model definitely has the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex not getting as much. So definitely feeling some of the late development of the snow bands. Not as much of the heavy precipitation. But the NAM model is definitely not one to really be believed too much either. HRRR model has that northeast Texas into the Arklatex getting the heaviest snow. This is the 12Z HRRR. It has a little bit less over southeast Oklahoma, and it seems to have the heavier snow a little bit displaced to the south, northeast Texas into southwestern Arkansas, which seems like certainly a very reasonable forecast. But that would mean a little bit of a later development of those snow bands. With the DFW Metroplex getting about 4 to 5 inches of snow from that one too. Thank you, Team Dominator members, for making these updates possible. We're going to be going live, it looks like, during our coverage tomorrow. Multifaceted coverage here of this winter storm. But look at that, how the HRRR model is displaced a little bit to the south of the GFS. The GFS has this heavier band a little bit to the north over southeast Oklahoma. I tend to believe the GFS, and the reason why is because of the upper evolution of this snowstorm. Usually with these snowstorms in the southern plains, you want to follow the 500 millibar vortmax that's happening. And we are going to look at the GFS model here, upper level pattern, and let's see where the 500 millibar vortmax is going. It's not a textbook snowstorm. This is the vortmax that is causing all the wildfire problems down here in Southern California on the northwest side of it. It loses steam, and then this one starts to dominate near the Four Corners region. This one amplifies and leads to kind of a general area of cold spin located near the Four Corners off to the southeast of it. And if that were to just barrel right in to the North Texas, Southern Oklahoma, we'd be talking about even greater snowfall totals. But all you need is a vortmax, an open wave upstream, and you're definitely going to get some positive vorticity advection downstream of that. So I do expect that vortmax to amplify near the Four Corners region. Downstream of that, you're going to get some positive vorticity advection, some mid-level lift. And the key to getting big snow events is to have that lift maximized in the mid-levels of the atmosphere near 500 millibars. That's where those dendrites grow. But because this northern vortmax is dominating and this one loses steam, gets pinched off a little bit, and then this whole area kind of fluffs out over the southern plains, you're not going to get as much snow. But because that northern vortmax is dominating, that's why I think that the GFS is trending a little bit towards some greater totals further north. You also get this jet dynamics downstream of it, and you can get some lift from that, from ageostrophic lift from these jet noses that will come in. You can see these streamers here that are getting stretched out. Those are associated with lift as well in the mid-levels, and that's going to create kind of those southwest and northeast oriented bands of heavier snow. But you're looking at Thursday night. Here's your vortmax coming out of New Mexico. This is your area of cold spin. General area of cold spin here. Usually where the 500 millibar vortmax will pass, that's where you get the heavier snow. But this is kind of a shearing out vortmax, but downstream of this, you're definitely going to get some positive vorticity advection. Not a ton of it, kind of a glancing, fluffy blow of it. But somewhere down, that's probably going to lead to that band of snow just downstream of this. But I do think that you're going to get that 500 millibar vorticity advection into southeastern Oklahoma as well. That's why I'm trending just a little bit further north. I think southeast Oklahoma into far northeast Texas is going to be that heavier band of snow. And by 18Z, by tomorrow about midday, it's really going to start to ramp up near the DFW area. Some icing could come in as well near the metro, which could cause some major problems near some of those bridges and overpasses down there. But the snow is really going to peak, it looks like, Thursday evening from southeast Oklahoma across some of that higher terrain. Southeast Oklahoma into western Arkansas. Overnight hours near midnight. Look at northeast Texas near midnight. That's when the mid-level vorticity advection is going to be dominating down there. Looks like towards midnight into the overnight hours. And then tomorrow night, that heavier snow starts to expand eastward into northwestern Mississippi, eastern Arkansas. Look at that plume of moisture. There's your surface low down near coastal Louisiana. That's going to continue to push off to the east. By about morning time, by Friday morning, you definitely start to get some heavier snow. Northern Mississippi getting hammered. Northern Alabama gets in on the action. Snow starting to move into the Tennessee area as well. And you're about to have winter storm warnings further east into the upstate Carolinas. So it does look like some pretty good snow is going to be heading for you out near where my mom is located, out there on Friday. And then it starts to change over to ice Friday night into Saturday. Could be a pretty big icing event out there. There you can see it changing over to ice across upstate Carolina. But it does continue to be winter precipitation through the whole event. And if this were properly phased, you'd be having a coastal storm that would go right up the East Coast, but it looks like it's just off to the south of New York, Cape Cod area, going out to sea mostly. But the cold air is in place there. If that can just go a little bit further north, that could cause some problems too. But watch out, Western Carolinas, upstate South Carolina, it does look like there's going to be a pretty big plume of snow right there. And speaking of plumes, there's your fire plume just to the northwest of Pasadena. We have been tracking this. I should be live right now, but it looks like the internet could be getting a little bit fried here. Let me make sure, see if I'm live to everybody. I may not be. Yep, looks like we are still live here, folks. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. My mom was not able to find any milk and bread out there, unfortunately. But there you can see that plume just to the northwest of Pasadena seems to be getting more robust. You'll kind of see a windshield wiper effect with these plumes, too, as the winds shift. It looks like it's about to come back south again. And all of that also depends on how the vortex matures off to its south. Moving into northwestern Mexico. Here you can see this mountain range. The San Bernardino's up there, located roughly west to east. They shift a little northwest right there. And so those winds are coming in from the north and from the northeast on the northwest side of that vortex. And they will get pumped through those gaps in the terrain when they come in roughly perpendicular to that. And there you can see one of those, the biggest fire plumes out there. Glendale, it's got to be rough in terms of air quality near the Glendale area. And that plume is definitely coming back into Pasadena proper again as well with a shift in those winds out of a more northerly direction. I probably should have went out there to chase this as a storm chaser. I'm here at Team Dominator headquarters in Oklahoma getting ready to work the snowstorm down here. And this is probably the most reasonable snowfall map that I've seen. And I do think that it's probably going to be higher totals southeast Oklahoma, far northeast Texas. But I also think a very impactful event is coming to the DFW Metroplex. We are going to be activating live snow chase mode tomorrow, probably tomorrow around midday, to capture the peak of that event. But that's a reasonable snowstorm total forecast Thursday, Friday. It looks like it's going to peak Thursday night across northeast Texas, southeast Oklahoma, into portions of southwestern Arkansas. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. The GFS model has done a pretty good job with this event. And looking at the onset set of the precipitation, it does look like it's going to begin tomorrow morning. So here you can see the GFS model tomorrow morning forecast at about 6 to 7 a.m. It starts to show some light snow breaking out across the Red River region, southern Oklahoma by tomorrow morning. And that includes the Oklahoma City metro area. But the snow it ramps up as the day goes on and really peaks Thursday evening. But look at that, by late morning, you start to get some near moderate snow just to the northwest of DFW, into southeast Oklahoma. You start to get some icing, though, coming up into central Texas by the late morning hours, near DFW and just to the south, and that precip continues to ramp up. Definitely shows this icing that could impact portions of the south DFW metro, snow to the north of that. And this is by about midday as that heavier snow starts to ramp up. Icing begins to impact just to the south of the metro. And then you even get an acceleration of those snowfall rates, but might turn over to rain by about 6 p.m. And it could change back over to snow as some of those heavier rates move in near the midnight hour. You start to lose a little surface heating. This would be a dynamical cooling type situation where you get some heavier precipitation coming in. Should help to cool the column. But looking at a forecast sounding right over DFW at about midnight tomorrow night, shows it at about 33, 32 degrees. Very close to changing over to a little bit of free. But I think with some dynamical cooling, you're going to keep that profile just below freezing near the DFW metroplex. Let me make sure I draw that line a little closer. You can see that it's saturated there, of course. A lot of lift in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. You can see this lift right here. That's all lift centered right around 500 millibars. You're saturated up there. You're at about minus 12 or so. So perfect dendrite growth region in that sounding over Dallas. You've got your lift maximized near 500 millibars. Temps roughly close to about minus 15 degrees C. And you still have a bit of a warm advection pattern too, going from those cold northeasterly winds, and then just above about 850 to 700 millibars, you shift over to that isentropic lift, that pure warm advection southerly wind. And so everything's pointing towards some very favorable heavy snowfall rates down near DFW, the metroplex tomorrow evening, as that system moves in into southwest Arkansas too, southeast Oklahoma. There's some of that heavier snow. And then Arkansas is going to start getting hammered into the early morning hours on Friday, and that's going to spread into northern Mississippi as well. Look at that coastal low down there, 1,004 millibars. And the snow starts to subside by Friday morning across the DFW metroplex. It's starting to move off to the east here now. But the heavier snow, central southern Arkansas into northwestern Mississippi, southwestern Tennessee, there it comes. There's your coastal low, passing east of the Sabine River Valley in the early morning hours on Friday. And look at that, getting hammered in northern Mississippi Friday morning, 12Z, just getting rocked out there across this area. That brings the heavier snow Friday morning into northern Mississippi, southwestern Tennessee, northwestern Alabama. Some of those greater snowfall totals move into that area, I-55. Moving into northwestern Alabama. It tries to change over to rain near the I-55 corridor in northern Mississippi just as that surface low passes, and then goes back over to snow near that Mississippi River Valley back there on the northwest side. Tennessee, that snow's coming for you. And then let's look at the upstate Carolinas here, where my mom lives, where the Hurricane Helene damage is located. Major icing, wintry mix coming here, upstate South Carolina. This is Friday night at about 6 p.m., and the heavier precip also coming into the western Carolinas there as that Helene damage zone continues to recover. And it looks like through Friday night into Saturday morning, you maintain that frozen precipitation here across upstate Carolina into western North Carolina there. That's Friday, the overnight hours, Friday night into Saturday. So it looks like a very impactful icing event beginning out there. Carolina Piedmont's going to get some big icing too. but not a superstorm because the upper levels don't really favor it to just blossom off the temperature gradient of the western edge of the Gulf Stream quite as much. But I'm going to be covering probably the western edge of this system with that heavier snow, northeast Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, into western Arkansas here. Got to be kidding me with this. Thanks everybody for tuning into this live update. Thank you Team Dominator members. Usually I do these lives for only the Team Dominator members, but with this one being the wildfire threat that's happening out there, I figured to do this, of course, for everybody. Talking about the meteorology of this wildfire outbreak that's happening. Just horrific wildfire conditions out here, and you can definitely see that plume starting to sag a little bit further south toward the Pasadena area as those winds are shifting more out of the north direction, northeast, northerly direction there. Glendale, Pasadena. A lot of complex terrain out here. So I kind of like to use the different radars to try to be able to see these different plumes. I think you can actually still kind of see this plume down here. Down near the Santa Monica area, you can definitely see it up near Pacific Palisades. It does look like that plume is subsiding in intensity a little bit. But the damage has already been done across those areas. Pacific Palisades up toward Malibu. Reports of people abandoning their vehicles on the Pacific Coast Highway down here. And these are the same areas where we were covering flooding about a year ago with the atmospheric river events that were happening out here. Thanks everybody for tuning in to this live emergency update wildfire event from yesterday into the overnight hours, and those favorable conditions for wildfires are going to continue during the day today. And they should start to subside overnight hours tonight, ramp up again tomorrow, and then subside starting Thursday night into Friday. Thank you everybody for tuning in to this live emergency update. I am here from Team Dominator headquarters, Tornado